ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the return of the movie!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Return of the Movie, the podcast where we talk about reboots, sequels, and franchises. I'm Ben.
I'm Matt.
I'm Alex.
All right, and hey guys, it's our first in-person sort of studio taping for the podcast. It's super different. So, yeah, we're all here now. The vibe is very different. Don't do that, Al. Why are you laughing at me, Alex? Don't laugh at me from the West Coast. That's just rude.
Sorry.
You're over there. You're not allowed to be mean.
I'm surprised you don't have subtitles over there saying that you're in Burbank, like this movie does every 30 seconds.
Burbank.
It's all I gotta show off that real estate.
That we can
The
never
valley.
afford.
No one can. LA's a myth. LA doesn't exist. And regardless, though, God, this is the energy is very weird today. But yeah, hi guys, we're here in the studio for the first time, and also I forgot to include this in the read, but things are going to be releasing a little bit differently for the audio stream. So as of this release, audio receives their episode before YouTube. That is right. If you want to listen to the Return of the Movie first, now you have to be subscribed to our audio feeds. So if you want that weekend fix, every other Wednesday, we're going to be dropping from now on out. And we're going to start with this one. So be sure to come by, leave us I guess for podcast, it's all about reviews, actually. So please jump in Apple Podcast and leave us a good review. It really helps us out. And also, you guys know the deal on YouTube. Like, comment, and subscribe. Really big deal for us. And we have so much content on YouTube, including things like Full Stock Reviews, which is hosted by Matt over here. And that's our bite-sized review show. We have First Timers, which is our Meme Lord edited fucking reaction show. You guys can thank Kenny for that one. And then, of course, there's Interview Philly, our mockumentary web series. So, all plugs out of the way. Alex, what film is this one? What sad remake are we doing
all
today?
Right. Today, we're talking about Space Jam, A New Legacy. Welcome to the future, where you're constantly bombarded by ads for services you already subscribe to. Jeff Bezos went to space, and it's one of the hottest summers on record. Coincidence? I think not. All right. Get ready for a retro-style kids movie. And by retro, I mean back when the writers used to think children were inherently fucking morons who couldn't follow plot or themes. But don't worry, we have snippets from Warner Brothers / HBO Max properties to remind the parents to go watch other shit on the streaming service they are currently watching Space Jam on. Cringe through athletes trying to emote and act like humans on camera, and be amazed by Don Cheadle fully committing to the horror show that is Algorithm. Did you know Netflix changes its thumbnails using an algorithm to try and pinpoint what images you are more likely to click on? I hate it here! The Looney Tunes are also a big part of the movie, seemingly created by 22-year-olds who have only ever seen a couple of YouTube clips of the Looney Tunes. Honestly, I only wish we got to see more bunny tits, because then at least the furries would be happy. Make fucking one of us.
My God. Okay, well, Alex has just channeled the energy that we all felt the other night watching it in our individual sets. So, I'm just gonna ask, for the audience, do you think kids' movies should be judged? Like, seriously, they should. I don't think it's an argument, but I want to hear the counter-argument because I've seen it happening online.
I keep seeing a defense of this movie that, well, it's not made for you. You shouldn't judge it. Of course, you're a 30-year-old guy. You're a 30X-year-old. You're an adult. You're not supposed to like this movie. But Finding Nemo is meant for kids. That's one of the best animated movies of all time.
And
Yeah, here's the-
literally everything Pixar's done.
That's the thing is, like, kind of a couple years after the original Space Jam came out, the jig was fucking up for kids' movies because Pixar started releasing movies, DreamWorks, where it was like, oh, you can have kids' movies that are, like, really enjoyable and everybody in the family wants to watch them and they're, like, actual cinema.
Yeah.
And then we keep getting fucking movies like, I don't know, like Smurf 6 and Sing
Emoji.
and like Pets. So, fuck DreamWorks.
We don't talk about the Emoji Movie.
You threatened me to
I have
watch
threatened.
that.
That threat still stands, by the way. I will find the time to make you watch that. But, again, I like how I posed a question for the audience and just everyone on the panel dives in on it because it makes us brutally angry.
No, but that
Because
was
it's
my
a very
first
anti-intellectual
comment.
argument.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And I kind of want people's input on this because I feel like this is something that needs to be fleshed out. And because we're not really going to be breaking this thing down necessarily from just a kids movie point of view. For the media study today, we're going to be diving in a lot more on the background on this. And inherently to the background, we got to talk about the cast.
Okay, so there's two halves to this cast. There's people who are actually in the movie, and then there are people who cameoed in the movie, and there's a lot of them. So the main cast is comprised of LeBron James, Don Cheadle, Cedric Joe, Chris Davis, Sayer Wright, Sonika, Martin Green, Zendaya, Gabriel Iglesias, and Ernie Johnson Jr., and John Bergman. We have cameos out the wazoo at this movie, and you have Steven Yeun, Sarah Silverman, Michael B. Jordan in one of this movie's only funny moments.
Yep.
True.
Klay Thompson, who was on a torn ACL at the time when he was shooting this movie, Anthony Davis, Nneka Ogwumike, and Diana Taurasi. Oh, God. Taurasi? Diana Taurasi.
You like half got it. Don't worry. I'm sure her fans are going to butcher you in the comments.
My fun fact, I actually have a couple of fun facts about this movie. Kath Soucie, who was the original voice of Lola Bunny, was brought back for this. Or she was the original voice from the original Space Jam movie.
Yeah.
And she was brought back for this movie. She recorded all of her lines, and then she was randomly replaced without being told what or why by Zendaya.
Oh, God.
Yep.
That's...
You know what? She still got that paycheck, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, I mean... I was gonna say, like, that's really surprising, but then I remember Warner Brothers is making this movie. And
Yeah.
They kind of have a reputation for that.
I really hope Warner Brothers starts figuring out that fans do not like them. And I really hope this movie turns into a catalyst for that, because...
Well, between this and the Snyder Cut.
Oh my god, yeah. And we're gonna talk about Warner Brothers in a fucking moment, but...
But I have two more fun facts that we can get through. The Space Jam 2 sequel ideas have been floated around forever. And it wasn't always limited to basketball. It was just whoever was like hot sports star at the time. So like Tony Hawk was in talks to do Skate Jam at one point, Jackie Chan for Spy Jam, and Jeff Gordon, the NASCAR racer, for Race Jam at one point.
What?
And then around 2014, LeBron started trying to make this happen, and it went through a number of different directors. Justin Lin, who left to do Fast 9 and stay with his family in Fast 10.
It's all about family. When you're here,
Terrence
your family.
Nance, who got into production with the movie, was fired and then replaced by Malcolm D. Lee. Kobe Bryant was also interested in directing this as late as 2018.
As...
R.I.P.
My gosh. Okay. So, real quick, as long as we are talking about Fast 9 for a second, and the fucking relationship that it has with this movie, I would like to bring to a lot of people's attention something that is very valid about that family meme. That family meme is more than likely a paid advertising campaign.
Oh, an AstroTurf?
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's literally like just a couple memes planted in the right spots and a bunch of people making it. Pay a couple people to make their own originals and throw it into an echo loop. And you end up with a god-awful meme that pollutes our pages for, I think, 3 weeks now.
Well, it kind
Can
of
I
reminds me
enjoy
of...
nothing?
Can
I not
we can't.
have any
We
fun?
can't, because we're talking about Space Jam now. So now there's no enjoyment. because we just talked about
Existence
the
is
god-awful-
pain.
It's literally like the media oversaturation is bad. And we have 2 examples of that now in the same podcast.
Well, it kind of reminds me of how there was this internet campaign to, like, cancel Eminem, and then, like, a week later he drops a music video.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
remember?
you're right.
Like, there's no way that was legit, right?
Yeah.
So,
No, it's kind of funny. Not a lot of people talk about the fact that memes can be used as marketing, and it is like anyone in the media studies world has known this for a while because the meme has existed as a word in the media studies world far before there have been cat videos on the internet. So, like, it bleeds into each other really well. However, I think it's about time that we talk about the other family man, LeBron James. Because this man is essential to this thing's creation.
it's interesting with LeBron being here. I don't know if either of you guys are, like, big sports people or, like, basketball fans, but I'm for those of you who may or may not know, I never talk about this on our channel, but I'm the huge sports head. Like, I watch everything. NBA, I watch everything. NFL, I watch college football. So it's like sports and sports culture has been something I've been kind of immersed in for a long time. And one of the biggest figures in American sports for this century has been LeBron James. For a number of different reasons, and sometimes not always for good reasons if you look up some of his China comments. But we can get to that a little bit later. But
that could
for
be
the
like
most
its
part,
own fucking
is kinda-
podcast.
what?
That could be like
His
its
China
own
comments.
podcast. Like the implications of that and like how all that has to do with marketing and
Well, to quote LeBron, this movie hurt me emotionally, spiritually, financially,
Really?
mentally. Okay, so you know what? I'll just get into it.
Go into
I'll
it.
get into
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. I'm here to hear all the LeBron drama right now.
Okay, so this is kind of tangential to this movie, but it's a couple of years ago. Every summer, it used to be the NBA would do exhibition games in China, and so like you'd have an NBA team like the Warriors or somebody like that playing against a Chinese team. They win by 50, but the whole point is to like Chinese. Apparently, they love basketball, so. So the NBA has been trying to like take advantage of that market the way Disney has, for example.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the Chinese will send their teams over here and they'll do exhibition games here. And this was happening right as some of the Hong Kong protests in late 2019 were starting to ramp up.
Oh, okay.
And so Daryl Morey, who is currently the GM of the Philadelphia 76ers, but at the time was the GM of the Houston Rockets, and tweeted out his support of the Hong Kong protesters while some of these exhibition games were happening. And the league was fucking pissed about this. Some people were calling for him to be banned from the league. The Chinese government wanted him fired. LeBron came out and said that it was a stupid thing that Daryl Morey said that, and that he wasn't educated about the issues, and that it hurt him mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You know, like that whole melodramatic thing. He said that verbatim, 100% seriously. And so part of the issue is that, like, some of the players were a bit nervous that he said that because they were on Chinese soil when he said that.
Oh.
And so it's kind of a sticky issue, but you also have guys like Enes Kanter, who's been at odds with the Turkish government for years, coming out in support of what Morey said. And so part of LeBron's interest in keeping the Chinese happy was
Space Jam. Shit. I mean,
that's a very, very, very TLDR of that situation.
Well, no, we need a rundown, and also like, we mostly focus on movies on this channel, but when you are doing like an actual media analysis, it's really important to look at everything. And sports are media, and
Oh, yeah.
they play into that ecosystem hardcore. clearly because not one Space Jam movie exists, but now two.
Well, because the first one featured Michael Jordan, who was the biggest athlete on the planet at the time, and it featured him at a very, very interesting time in his career, because he retired from basketball partially because his dad died, and his dad's dream for him was for him to become a baseball player, and so he wanted to try and pursue that dream. And so that's about that period in his life. And so there's kind of like a basis for the character arc he has in that movie.
Yeah.
This movie feels a lot more like a tug of war between LeBron and Michael Jordan's legacy almost. Because one of the big, I guess, debate questions, like you go to a bar, you're debating sports, is who's the better basketball player of all time, LeBron James or Michael Jordan? And this has been a huge talking point basically ever since 2016, because LeBron James won his third NBA championship after that season, and it was probably one of the most difficult paths to a championship anybody's ever taken, because he beat what many consider to be one of the best teams ever put together, and they were down 3-1 in the NBA Finals. For those of TLDR, best of 7 series, so first one to win 4 games wins. If you're down 3-1, there's only one team has ever done that kind of a comeback before, and it was LeBron's team that year. So after that, people started saying that LeBron might actually be better than Michael Jordan at basketball and might have a better legacy. Michael Jordan, in response to this, commissioned the Last Dance documentary, that 10-part documentary series that was a 30 for 30, and it's now on Netflix. And it was one of the highlights of like lockdown releases. Everybody was talking about this, everybody was watching this, and everybody got super nostalgic about the late 90s Bulls and what Michael Jordan and Dennis Rodman and Scottie Pippen and all those people were able to do. But he commissioned that, he greenlit that documentary during while he was watching the championship parade for LeBron on TV.
Really?
Yeah, they're both very, very protective over their public image and legacies. And like in very, very different ways too. And so so this is kind of like part of a proxy war.
So you've explained this before, and I was watching this movie, and like in my head I was just going, oh right, yeah, this is part of a pissing contest right now.
Yeah, kind of.
And it feels like it. It's we're not doing verdicts this week because this movie is just bad.
Obviously, yeah.
Oh, I had a funny direction for my verdict.
Oh, well, I mean,
I have a bit.
You have a bit?
I have a
Okay. You can save it to the end if you want to, or you could interject if you find an appropriate moment. But
given what I have to reference to do that bit, just save it for the end.
Oh God! Oh God!
You know exactly.
I know exactly what you're talking about now. That's a yikes. So, yeah, we've been. One of the things is with this whole thing, and LeBron in particular, is like this movie is super attached to him and as an individual, and like I was watching. I'm sorry, but watching this film, I had a moment where I'm just like, oh man, LeBron can't act. But then you two fucking tell me that he's done something else that he was actually good in?
I wouldn't say, look, if you're fucking comparing Michael Jordan's acting to LeBron James' acting, LeBron James does a better job in this movie. For sure. Michael Jordan was not getting nominated for a fucking Oscar. He was pretty terrible too. But Matt and I were talking about in Trainwreck, much better. Now, am I shocked that Judd Apatow was able to get a better performance out of LeBron James? Absolutely not. That's not shocking in the least. But it's also just like, it just feels like everyone involved, I mean, like, literally the main plot of this movie is, that's not my dream, Dad. That's yours. Which is like such a fucking joke. And it's like, the whole fundamental part of this movie is built on top of that. So it's no wonder that everyone's just kind of like, uh-huh. And that's the whole movie.
There's a more
So
interesting direction they could have taken the father-son dynamic with LeBron. And I was curious to see if they were going to go farther with it than they did, and they didn't. So I don't know how much you guys know about LeBron James, but he's been in the public eye since he was like 15 years old, because he was hailed as like the next Michael Jordan when he was still like a sophomore in high school.
Oh my gosh.
So just imagine the kind of pressure that he had. He grew up in Akron in a very, very poor community. He doesn't know his father.
Yeah.
He grew up without a father. And so that's like a huge part of his story. And like he's been I know I'm dumping on LeBron a little bit, but he's been super active and super like socially active about giving back and lifting up communities. And a huge part of that is because he grew up in that kind of environment. And I was kind of curious to see if they would include that part of his history and that part of his personality into this movie, because I feel like it would have given more depth to the father-son relationship, but they didn't go there. But, you know, it's like a film made for 10-year-olds, so I guess they didn't want to take it there, but...
Yeah, but
know,
I mean,
because we
the
can't...
reality is, like, I mean, like, I was thinking about other movies that I watched as a kid. You know, just Disney movies before Pixar. Some of my favorites were, like, Hercules and Mulan and The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Those are heavy. Like, they have some very heavy, introspective themes. And
Milan has a genocide in it.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, like, yeah, this is a movie for 10-year-olds. Like, they're on board for cartoons and basketball. Like, you already have their attention. So, I mean, I don't know. I think it's sad and just fucking stupid to not at least try to have a plot and, like, have some sort of other like meaning coming into the movie, instead of just at the beginning his mom like, you know, I'd be there if I could, have a great game, and like that's the only like, oh, he had a little bit of a rough time growing up, and that's it, and then it's gone. And then the next time we see him, he's like on a basketball court in Malibu or something.
This entire movie was written as if it were like as if it was just a writer trying to get through dialogue that they would then go back and fix later. Like, every single thing was just like generic beat, generic beat, generic beat, and the movie's finished. Like, all the dialogue in this film is like, but no, Dad, I want to go to video game camp. You can't go to video game camp, son. You have to do basketball. I am not paraphrasing by all that much.
No, you're not.
You're really not.
It's
exhausting.
So,
by the first 15 minutes, I was like, holy shit, this is a 2-hour-long movie, and I'm only 15 minutes in, and I don't want to watch anymore. And it gets better. I would say it does get better, but...
You see, I couldn't tell if it was getting better because I was, like, getting inebriated halfway through it, or, like, if it was getting better because it genuinely picked up.
No, it genuinely picked up, yeah.
Okay.
Which, here's the thing, is it genuinely picked up when it turned away from the family aspect of the movie, which is bad. That is bad.
Yep.
I'd say the best section is the section where we're going to all the different worlds and picking up the Looney Tunes. Very cute, very enjoyable.
Or that but then they try also to get the Justice League first and then fuck it up.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like that, the Daffy Duck Superman thing is so funny. But then it's also ruined by it's like, it is sort of like an ad for HBO Max.
Yeah. So, let's talk about this part of it. So, first of all, I'm going to go a little out of order in our show notes, and I just want to say something directly to anyone at HBO that might be watching. Showing off your monopoly is not charming, Warner Brothers. It really isn't. We don't want to see all the companies that you own, and if we do see the companies that you own, we do not want you to explicitly say, look at all the things we own as Warner Brothers. There's nothing fun about it. It's not cutesy. It doesn't have Disney charm to it. It's just bad. And this movie is so self-indulgent on both the part of Warner Brothers and HBO just as it is on LeBron's part. Because there is nothing but ego in this script.
No, nothing.
No.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like Ready Player One, but more cynical.
the thing about Ready Player One is that it was a book. And it's a celebration of nostalgia.
Wasn't it about the dangers of nostalgia?
Well, it's both, in all honesty. Like,
Now, there are
it's-
other movies that
'cause-
do something similar successfully. Like, I would argue, like the Lego movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously, the
And
writing
that
for the
movie
Lego
was intended
movies
for kids.
is- oh my god, the writing for the Lego movies is so good. It's
Yes.
unbelievable. They're fantastic movies. Just straight up, no cap. Doesn't matter that they're kids' movies. They're fantastic. So yeah,
And
there's
it's-
just no excuse this day and age. It's like there you already have models out there for this kind of style. It's a sequel. So you have a built-in nostalgia factor that way, and somehow it still like completely misses the mark.
Also, Lego Movie used a bunch of Warner Brothers shit in it. It's very clear that Warner Brothers had their hands in that. It would not take that much effort to get the same writers for the Lego Movie hired for Space Jam 2.
Well, I don't think LeBron wants Lord and Miller writing his big feature film.
Well, maybe LeBron should learn to hire talent instead of whatever this was. Because if it was really a LeBron's choice of who was going to be involved in this project and how the dialogue was going to be written and everything, then this movie's not just an indictment on Warner Brothers, it's just as much of an indictment on LeBron James. And if people are not willing to see that, then that's their problem. So, if that's the argument, then we know where to shift the blame on this one, because this could have been a good movie.
Well, part of
Could it have been?
Here's the thing.
I don't
think so, because
No.
I think
disagree.
you guys just cited a couple good children's movies, and the first Space Jam, I will say, and this is something that I think we've talked about before, it's legitimately not a good movie, but it has such a great nostalgia factor, and the funny moments in it are actually funny. This is a movie that all that it had to do was be mediocre in order to be successful. The bar was really low for this one. And as you guys just pointed out, there's a blueprint. It exists. This is a doable thing to pull off.
I just think it would have never been successful because to begin with, it's not like the first Space Jam has great reviews or was a great movie by any stretch of the imagination. It was pretty good, and I'm very colored by having watched it as a kid and enjoying it as a kid. But it also sounds like they've had the sequel in the works for 25 years, and they were just looking for, like, when can we capitalize on marketing? They don't give a shit about anything this movie has to say. They're just trying to figure out when they could capitalize on marketing. And they were able to do that with this. But I think the biggest downfall of this movie is that we have had a year like no other where people are becoming even more aware of how fucking terrifying algorithms and like cyber spying, and realizing how all of these major corporations have like such a tight grip on us that we weren't even totally aware of through social media. And man, that becomes so apparent in this movie that it was like, because it was filmed pre-pandemic, right? Yeah, it was supposed to get released, I think, last year.
It was filmed in the summer of 2019.
Yeah, so I think it's really apparent that this was supposed to come out last year, and it missed that wave of like, the algorithms aren't cute and funny. Like, they're starting to get really scary, and like we're all starting to get savvy to how fucked up this is.
But if you're a giant company, like one of the big, I think it's 5 now. I think
I thought it was 4.
is it 4 now? Oh God, the
Because
number.
Fox folded.
Oh yeah,
Or-
you're right.
No, got bought out.
If my point being, if you're a Time Warner company, maybe telling children that algorithms are bad might hurt your business model. So
But they're not saying algorithms are bad. They're saying algorithms is Don Cheadle inside of it's like they're almost like, in a weird way, they're like humanizing it and making it this like one person instead of something that they all use to make sure you're buying stuff from them.
And so that's my point exactly. It's that idea of like creating this sort of disconnect. And again, as you're pointing out, this is targeted to kids. So like, and we all know algorithms are fucking terrifying. It's bad. But this movie just like keeps doing the fun thing in the writer's room where it's like computer does computer thing. And like that's kind of just it. Like, I feel like even kids these days who are so much more tech savvy than we were back in the day kind of understand these things more. Like at 6, I didn't know shit. And now there's like 12-year-olds that like basically know as much, if not more than me, about basic computer science.
Yeah.
Like, there's...
Shoot, growing up, all I did was learn how to type.
Were
Playing
none of us
Sim.
MySpace kids?
I never
I
used
did.
it.
I learned that basic HTML so I could like do cool stuff in my MySpace. Or playing Sims 1. Oh, so good. It just makes me think the other day at work, we have Etch-a-Sketches for kids, and I heard this dad tell his daughter, he was like, oh, it's not a touch screen. I was like,
Oh no.
what the fuck?
That moment when you're just getting completely dated. Oh,
I was
God.
just like, oh, that's so weird because it has a screen, so of course this little kid thinks it's a touch screen, because what else would it be? Which is upsetting.
Yeah. So while we're on the subject of kids and the HBO, Time Warner, and Warner Brothers situation with this, something has stuck out to me as extremely wrong about how this was marketed. Specifically, the Warner Brothers properties that they had chosen to be used at any given time.
The
Almost
god-awful
every
extras
property we
at the
were
end.
shown. Yeah. Almost every property we were shown in this movie is something that came out at least 20 years ago. We had the
because
Yeah.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones was like the only one. And that was painfully related to HBO.
Yeah.
It was...
Depends on how you
And
do
Harry
Batman,
Potter.
Superman, all that.
And Harry Potter. But
But
those
they
are two.
even
Harry
they were
Potter
like,
is
look at Harry
old
Potter
to children
Yeah,
now.
they're like, Harry Potter's very far away. We're not seeing any of the Harry Potter characters. And
No.
does anybody think LeBron James actually a Hufflepuff? I don't.
No. He's like easily Slytherin or Gryffindor. There's no in between on that one.
Yeah,
But-
Hufflepuffs don't become some of the best athletes to ever exist.
Agreed. Only personality test that I'm like, yeah, you're easy to pin down.
I could see
Yeah, but it
Ravenclaw
was so
just
bizarre,
because
'cause
he
it
has a
took me-
reputation for being like one of the smartest basketball players ever.
If he's really that smart, then Ravenclaw would check out. But definitely, we just all agree
Just
not
definitely
Hufflepuff.
not Hufflepuff.
That's the
yeah,
only one he can't be.
During the basketball game, I realized eventually that, like, oh, they have the villains on, like, the bad guys' side of the court. And I was like, is that Pennywise?
Yeah. They put Pennywise there.
There were, like, evil nuns and White Walker. And it was like, these are straight up scary, like, horror movie characters.
The White Walkers looked bad. They did.
It was so They were straight.
And
Like, so
It wasn't
blue.
enough for you to kill him with season 8, was it, HBO?
No, they had to fucking go back and re-brutalize everyone. Also, another group that shouldn't have appeared in the background at all. Fucking Clockwork Orange.
The Droogs.
The Droogs. The motherfucking Droogs.
Well, kids aren't even gonna know what that's from.
Yeah, but that's a dark thing to see anywhere. Anyone who's watched that movie is like, oh, I didn't want to remember that. Thanks.
Well, it's I will say this, it's a little bit weird because there was a whole controversy about Pepe Le Pew being censored out of this movie, but you leave the Droogs in.
Yeah.
Obviously, contextually, it's a different situation, but it's kind of a funny juxtaposition.
Well, at least they didn't get speaking lines, because Pepe Le Pew would have required speaking lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's... My whole thing with this is this movie just comes off so cynical and, frankly, tone-deaf with this presentation from this. And,
Yeah.
like, we have just been ripping on HBO right now. We haven't really even dived into the fact that this is, like, super circle jerky on LeBron's part as well.
Well, it starts out with it. I mean, the first one was just a circle jerky for Michael. But
Yeah.
like the first one, it starts out with a montage of his career. Like he gets called King James all the time, which, to be fair, is like a nickname he's been called since he was 18.
But it said
It's-
like at least 25, and I think I'm being very conservative with that number. At least 25 times. If I was him and I was like watching this movie, I'd be like, we have to fucking cut some of those because I want to rip my ears off. Like that is, and that's not even every time they say his full name. That's just, I'm saying like
Yep.
25 times they call him King James. Like,
It's
oh, it's bad.
all the pieces on that, the fact that, not even that, but like the sort of presentation that goes into it and the way that other like side characters talk about him, it really turns into this kind of like, I don't know what else to call it. It's kind of like a messiah complex in certain parts of the movie.
Kinda, yeah.
Like, he takes on this big savior route, which also, this movie just does such a garbage job establishing stakes and what the scope is. Like, we only find out that people are about to get trapped in the fucking... What was the dumb name that they used for the internet?
The
serververse.
Serververse.
The serververse. It's not the internet, it's the serververse now. Guys, just
Also, the
finish
idea that
internet.
Warner Brothers has a giant room of servers that just anyone could fucking walk into.
How fun would the movie have ended if like one of the people that walked in there like looking for LeBron is just like, what happens if I just unplug this?
What if that person was Michael Jordan? I would forgive that movie for everything if that's what happened.
They brought him
Just-
for that. Holy
Like it just takes
shit.
down every single like property that they have. Also, speaking of tone deaf, this movie's soundtrack is almost non-existent, which is sad because the original Space Jam's soundtrack was phenomenal. It had banger
slapped.
after banger. It had Seal's version of Fly Like an Eagle. It had I Believe I Can Fly by R. Kelly. It had, I mean, like, Welcome to the Space Jams, that song, by some DJs. I mean, like, there were just so many cool, awesome songs that I feel like still get played on the radio. There's like an LL Cool J Busta Rhymes song, Salt and Peppa have a song, and in this one there's like a song by John Legend, of course.
John, can we just stop giving John Legend's movie jobs?
He was good in La La Land.
I mean, he was fine in La La Land. He just, like, it seems like any animated film, he has to have a song on it.
Yep.
I
And it
it could
feels
be worse.
like
it could be
that
the
too,
Pharrell soundtrack to The Grinch.
Oh my god. Yeah. that has forever fucking scarred me, by the way. I still hate everything about that.
What a nothing burger of a movie.
Oh my gosh. There's
Like,
a
I'm
review
even
of
looking
that
at
on
the
channel or in
Space
podcast
Jams.
feed.
I'm looking at the Space Jams: A New Legacy soundtrack, and there's like a song by the Jonas Brothers. Don't remember it at all.
Wait. Who? What? Why? Why would you put...
There's 2 songs by John Legend, and I don't remember hearing them in this movie at all.
Were they just in the credits? Because I can tell you, once I looked up that there was no post-credit scene, I bailed.
It's yeah. I feel it's
didn't watch that far.
honestly shocking that they missed out on that, especially given how delayed the release was. You think they really would have gotten some bigger names to make songs for this?
Did Dame
movie.
Lillard have anything on the soundtrack?
I'm looking and I don't think so. It looks like there's only like 8 songs on this, and yeah, that's just like a very odd place that they truly failed.
That's one of the biggest missed opportunities. Damian Lillard, the time guy.
Yeah.
His nickname as an NBA player is Dame Time because he always makes big shots in big moments. That's kind of his thing. He's also a rapper on the side.
Wait, they didn't have him rap against Porky Pig? And by the way, if you haven't seen the movie, that happened.
The notorious P.I.G.
Here's the thing.
One of the better parts of the movie, honestly.
I thought that could have been so much better, because you know what he didn't do during the rap that would have been sick? He didn't do the Porky Pig stutter once during that rap.
He did at the beginning. He turned it into like a waka waka.
Yeah, but that was
And
just
then
his
started
way
off
in.
rapping.
It could have been amazing to have him use that rhythmically, like, throughout the fucking rap battle. It would have been so good.
How do you have an actual rapper, like, someone who's an amazing basketball player and a really good rapper, and you don't make use of it?
I mean, if this movie knew what it was doing, we'd be having a very different conversation right now. There's maybe, like, 4 jokes in the whole film that land for
The Michael
comedy.
B. Jordan one was pretty good.
It's good. It's so good. That was great.
That one actually sent me, because it came... I was so off guard with it, because I legitimately was not expecting it to make a fun joke.
I think the other joke
for a
that
second,
landed...
I really thought they were going to bring in Michael Jordan, and I was like, what? And then I was like, oh my God, that's pretty good. I will go.
I don't even think Michael Jordan wanted to come
I don't
back.
think he ever would have.
No, not at all.
I don't think he would have.
Absolutely not.
Especially with the, like, legacy thing between him and LeBron. There's just... If he did that, that would have been too big of an olive branch. Also, like, the fact that this movie is supposed to be a sequel, but it never acknowledges that first movie's existence.
Well, there's like little throwaway lines.
Yeah, but it's all like fourth wall breaks.
Yeah, like when they're trying to convince Lola to come back, and she's like, "I already did that. I don't want to do it again."
Yeah, it's that Bugs has a brief fourth wall break.
My favorite Bugs Bunny line is when he sees LeBron trying to put together a team. He goes, "Why, you run out of teams to play for?"
Oh God!
As a basketball fan, LeBron's changed teams like 4 times by this point. Each time it was so he could go to a better situation to be better positioned to win a championship. And one of the weird like quirks of sports culture is being loyal to the city that drafted you, despite the fact that most times, like the guy who won the NBA Finals just now, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Oh my God. He's from Athens, Greece. So he's not from Milwaukee. He didn't grow up there, but it's, you know, he makes a big point of being like loyal to the city and the fan base. And so LeBron kind of created a paradigm shift in the NBA when he started like taking advantage of free agency more than people had in the past. And so the fact that there was just like pot shots like that thrown at him was pretty funny.
I mean, that's like, but LeBron definitely okayed that. He
did.
Like, oh yeah, that's a funny thing to do. I love that comparison though, because for anyone that's unfamiliar with the channel and the podcast, we're from Philadelphia, where if you betray our sports team, you die. Like,
yes. Correct.
There's an entire city that has like open bounties on you. It's bad. But So I think with these comparisons, we have to start talking about the source material for this, because, man, we've already talked about the music, and this movie, for a movie that is called Space Jam: A New Legacy, does a real bad job picking up the legacy of the original Space Jam.
I mean, this movie is very much in the tone of, like, the recent, like, trend of reboots that we have, like, picking up a property 30, 40 years later, like Jurassic World, Ghostbusters, hell, even Star Wars has kind of done it, despite the fact that Star Wars is, like, more of a continuous product than the others, but...
You could argue It, which is another Warner Brothers property right now.
Yeah. It's... I don't know, we're having a new Dune movie coming out.
Was there ever a first Dune movie?
David Lynch.
Oh my gosh,
It flopped hard.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the reason why I haven't heard of it then.
The new one should... We'll talk about
Well,
that.
yeah, that's gonna be... It might get its own podcast.
Batman's been rebooted 30,000 fucking times. Superman, ditto. I mean, hell, we just covered, like, a Saw sequel / reboot.
Yeah. It is following this trend, and I'm just always curious about where, like, this movie, we were looking up on the side, and I think so far it's grossed about 31, I want to say, yeah, 31 million so far, which, when comparing it to other films at the time, like, taking a look at the numbers right now, Black Widow, which has come out at a very similar time, just got completely smashed by it.
Well, Black Widow
I-
also is doing the... Black Widow also came out a week earlier, so, like, the box office always falls in the second weekend. But Black Widow is also doing the Disney Plus premiere thing, and so, like, if you pay, what is it, $30, you get to see the movie.
If you let Disney just rob you blind, yeah.
Freaking
Alex,
nuts.
you had an interjection?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately for these movies too, we're having another spike in COVID cases. So, I mean, like, I can't imagine that many people are going to movie theaters right now. I mean, where I am, they just re-enlisted, like, our mandate to wear masks inside. So,
Oh, shit.
yeah,
You
last
fucked
Saturday.
up.
So,
Fucked
I
up
mean,
in Philly?
Yeah, that's just like a reality that I feel like if this keeps going up, movies are going to start pulling again and, like, delaying their release, because I'm sure they're not getting nearly the amount of money they would have if people, like, it was a regular time and people could just go out. Because the other thing is, like, it's a kids movie and kids can't get vaccinated, and
Oh, God.
that's kind of a pretty big deal. So, do you really want to be taking your kids to a movie theater right now? Where they, I don't know,
So
like,
everybody
lick the
else
seat and shit?
listening to this podcast, please, for the love of God, get the vaccine.
Yes. It's...
Yeah.
I didn't even think about the little germ factories that are children being
Yeah.
congregated into a movie theater.
Yeah, and I mean, like, even before the mask mandate came back, I went to this museum, and basically they had you wear masks inside because they're like, yeah, there's a lot of kids here, and they can't get vaccinated, so everyone needs to wear masks. So that's just a reality that parents have to deal with right now. Obviously, I think there's a good portion of people going to see this movie who are our age and grew up with the original Space Jam and just, like, I don't know, probably got really high and went to go see this movie. I can't imagine being like,
I
I'm gonna
think
go pay
that
money
was
to watch
probably
this
the
in.
move.
Yeah, I can't imagine being like, I'm 27 and I'm gonna go sober watch Space Jam 2 in theaters right now. But yeah, that's
That
another
is-
factor that these movies are gonna be dealing with, and
You know,
On
it's
that
kinda
note-
funny on a movie like this, I always wonder if like you could see a spike in alcohol sales when something like this comes out, or like if there were numbers for marijuana sales, I'm sure there would be a correlation, because this film, it was not an easy thing to sit through, especially
Yeah, it
like
was
in a
not
situation like
enjoyable.
this where we have to watch something because it's our job. Well, we have to make sure that we watch this so that we can talk about it in somewhat of an intellectual and comedic way. But my God, this was like, we have watched some absolute terrible movies on this channel. And this one was just top tier. I don't want to do it again.
It just had no heart and soul. That's the reality of it. It just didn't. I also felt like LeBron just as a, like he's playing LeBron, but he's a written character in this movie, and I feel like it's just so like washed out and devoid of actual humanity. And that's what made it not enjoyable. It's a giant fucking ad, and it becomes very apparent. They really thought they were like gonna pull one over on us and show everyone an ad, and it turns out it was pretty obvious.
So I kind of wonder if this is something that actually maybe played into our enjoyment. So there's a new theory kind of emerging about how we interact with advertised media. And the main thing about it is that our brains have just kind of developed this ability that when we see an advertisement, we just don't even absorb it anymore. We just kind of, like, if it's on our phone and you see a ad popping up that's like, oh yeah, that's not something that belongs in my feed, you just keep going past it, and your mind just starts blocking it out, because you know that you just basically, for lack of a better term, when you see an advertisement now, part of you just disassociates to not pay attention to the advertisement and try and get through it as quick as possible.
Yep.
So when you have an entire movie that's oversaturated with company branding, like, I think that's one of the least charming things about this, is the fact that it's not even like, oh, we're going to the world of fictional characters. That's a really bad alternative name for what this is. But everything, you hear the name Warner Brothers at least 12 times throughout the entire film.
I just wish the Animaniacs were in this.
Oh, but the Animaniacs are too self-aware.
Yeah.
They're too... If the Animaniacs were in here, they'd be making fun of the fact that we're watching an ad. Because the Animaniacs is smartly written.
They really could have punched down. Like, I thought a good joke that landed was Bugs Bunny basically pokes fun at the fact that this is a sequel and they're doing it again. And I was ready for them to, like, do that more. Because Looney Tunes is not Disney. It is a little, like, rough around the edges and can be very sardonic, especially considering that it came out, like, probably between 80 to 60 years ago now, some of the original stuff, probably closer to 60 and 50, but so
it's closer to 80.
Yeah,
40s.
Yeah. So it's like I think watching the original films, I don't, or the original like cartoons, they're a little edgy almost, and like they're very funny.
A little.
And a little. And that I think was missing. Yeah, it didn't feel like the Looney Tunes at all, which was it was like a just a sketch, like a vignette of Looney Tunes. It didn't feel like real Looney Tunes.
Yeah. Actually, no, that's a great point, because you mentioned that in the beginning, and we didn't even, when we were doing this outline, we were so focused on the meta piece of it that Bugs Bunny's character arc, if you know the character Bugs Bunny, there's a very thin outline for that character. And a lot of it is that man, portraying him as some sort of family man is totally against his nature. Because he just fucks with everybody given the chance.
Yeah.
Like, he is chaos incarnate. And he sacrifices his life in this one for family, which honestly he didn't really need to do. Like, in all honesty, like an actual Bugs Bunny would be like, well, that sucks. Well, hope you sacrifice yourself, LeBron, because I'm not doing that shit. Because nothing actually bad happens to Bugs Bunny and his people in the version where they lose. The only people that were in trouble were the people from, like, the real world that got sucked into that video game.
No, they said the Looney Tunes were gonna get deleted.
What? Oh,
Yeah, there was a bit of dialogue where Daffy Duck was like, hey, what about us?
What? How?
That was
why is
also
so
a funny
easy
joke.
To miss?
Because they throw in the stakes within 15 seconds. Of
At
like,
least the
oh,
first
by the
Space
way.
Jam had a legitimate structure to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's...
Like, it wasn't good, but it had heart and it had a sense of structure and stakes that this one just doesn't.
Yeah, and the like villains, I don't know, they just felt so much more like real. And maybe part of it is like the villains in this are literally made up. But they were literally just computer, like video game characters that were made up by somebody else. They weren't actual, like, you know, living things like the other Looney Tunes and stuff.
Like, they're not stealing the talent of current basketball players.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, like it wasn't those actual basketball players in there.
So that was my whole thing with, because we talked about this before the podcast, but for anyone who hasn't seen this, halfway through the 2-hour movie, the actual basketball game begins. I nearly said baseball. So there's an hour of basketball, roughly. All the stakes are thrown in. At that exact point, we learned that people are getting sucked into the serververse. People are getting sucked into the internet to watch this game, and if LeBron loses, they're all trapped there. And all the villains are thrown out, just, like, introduced in kind of, like, this weird montage thing that comes out of nowhere. And there's really crappy exposition to explain how they're happening in the first place, and the fact that it's like, oh, we just made copies of actual basketball people. In the original movie, we know who those people are immediately. The entire, like, a big part of the first act is aliens come to Earth and start doing things, and it's very clear that they are evil, and only Michael Jordan can deal with this, and Bugs Bunny. It's very clean and cut. How many hoops we had to jump through an hour of hoops to get to this point?
I see what you did there.
I'm just gonna say it. If you haven't seen the movie, don't watch it. Don't give Warner Brothers your money.
Ben,
We talked about them
I'm
a
gonna
lot.
confess something to you. I don't think there will be literally a single person on this planet who will make it to this point who has not seen the movie, or at least seen parts of it.
Go steal a Warner Brothers movie. Don't actually do that.
You wouldn't steal a car. You wouldn't download a
You wouldn't-
pizza.
You wouldn't download a bear.
Yeah.
I would totally download a pizza if I could.
Oh my god, if you could download
that
a pizza,
would-
hell yeah.
Yeah, 3D
Be
printer.
amazing.
Oh
Just
my
like
God.
take like some dough and some like
Oh my
tomato sauce,
god,
put it in a 3D,
3D
printer.
printable food?
Yes.
Dude, that's $1 million idea.
Yeah, imagine like we could be having that, but or like smell-o-vision, but instead like, yeah, Jeff Bezos
got
and
space.
whatever his fucking name from Virgin Records went to space. Anyway, I think I might literally fucking kill myself if we keep talking about this movie. I don't know about you
Okay,
guys.
Well, Alex really wants us to stop. So
So-
I guess this is it.
So my verdict of this movie.
Oh god.
I had a very strange movie watching experience yesterday because I watched this And another movie. I was confused. I was traumatized. And I was just depressed the entire time. I had just kind of this 1,000-year stare coming out of like my room where I was streaming these movies. And the other movie, one movie sucks the soul out of you and then lays it bare and then tramples on you. And the other movie's the Holocaust film Come and See.
Yeah. So if that's
Watch Full Stop reviews.
that Come and See just came out recently. Well, the review did, not the movie. Movie's old. Movie's really old.
It's about 40 years old.
But yeah, don't just we gotta start like banding together against Warner Brothers. That's those are my ending thoughts. We just need to go in there. They have proven that they don't know what they're doing many times, and I think we should just teach them a lesson. They had the Clockwork Orange people in there. You guys know what I'm talking about. We can make some serious changes. So, on that, tweet mean things at Warner Brothers because they're mean. And we'll see you next time where we're going to be covering a different movie that is hopefully nowhere near as bad as this one. I haven't looked at the schedule. What is it?
I don't know.
Okay. On that one, we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Oh, shit.
Bye.
We're covering Long Halloween next one.
Speaking of Warner Brothers.
Yeah, okay, we're covering more Warner Brothers. Join us
there
next
you
week
go.
where we may or may not shit on Warner Brothers. Bye-bye. This episode of The Return of the Movie was produced by Matt Kime with music and editing by Benjamin Collins. The Return of the Movie is produced by ABBC Productions and released as part of the Scope Network. You can find more of our content and the rest of our podcast at youtube.com/Scope Productions.